Well, good evening. We didn't know we were going to get a little bit of a technical bump from Steve when he came up here, but we do appreciate that. I'm here to tell you a little bit about Madagascar Oil. And earlier when I was talking in the lounge with two young ladies, someone mentioned to me they didn't even know Madagascar had oil. Well, it does have oil, and our company has been there for over 10 years now, investing in the country and investing in our infrastructure and getting things ready to move to a major development that I'll tell you about in a second. But before I do, I'll give you a little bit more background about myself. I am a petroleum engineer, and I've been 30 years in the industry all around the world. I've been blessed to be able to see and do a lot of different things, all the way starting from, when you're a junior engineer, you start off in the field and you learn all the field stuff and you do the reservoir engineering things. And then I was a head completion person for Texaco. I worked for Texaco for about 20 years, and they would give me the hardest and toughest wells to try to figure out. And a lot of times, you'd be the young guy and you think all these old heads, we called them, that were there on the rigs would tell you what to do. They wouldn't tell you what to do. You had to figure some of that stuff out. So all the time it wasn't done right, but luckily I kept moving on with my career and kept progressing. So I eventually went on to lead several different businesses. I went to Marathon Oil Company, where I was there for about 10 years at Marathon, and I was president of our Europe operations and also VP of our strategy and portfolio. So I feel like I know the industry pretty well. And I'd actually had left Marathon in 2012, and I kind of went to hang up my own flag. And I am from, I was in Texas, I was in Houston at the time. And at that time, the shale plays were kind of kicking off, and there was a lot of activity. A lot of companies wanted to come in, didn't know nothing or much about the industry. Companies wanted to grow. M&A, I did M&A work also. So I had plenty of stuff going on, and I could go and sit on my porch, or I could play golf in December when the rest of the world was cold. And that's when Madagascar Oil called me. So I'm really new to Madagascar Oil. I came in January of this year to the company, and prior to that, we'd been about 14 months without a CEO, and the board was pretty much running the company. But before I came to the company, I actually did my own evaluation here, and we've got one major asset that I'll tell you about. It's a thermal asset, and I was lucky enough to work at two of the biggest thermal operations in the world, in Indonesia and also in California. So I had to convince myself we actually had the resource there, and the oil was in place, and that we could actually develop that at an economic way. And I was able to convince myself of that and be able to come on, and I'm met a whole lot of great people. I've seen our asset. We've looked at our plans. We've changed our plans here of how we're going to go forward as a company. And one of the key things about Madagascar Oil, all of our assets are in Madagascar. They're all located onshore in Madagascar. But you have an unusual situation where you have a company of our size that is leading the industry in a country, in a region. So every time I go to Madagascar, the country manager of Exxon wants to invite me over because they're basically in the exploration phase, and we've moved on from that. So just to give you just a little bit of background about Madagascar and where we are, we say we're the longest and leading oil company in Madagascar because we've been there for 10 years. So we've been there through a lot of changes in the country itself, and we were still able to continue to develop our assets. All told, we've invested over $300 million in Madagascar to date. So we're serious about moving our development forward and moving our asset base. We own 4 blocks. We have 4 blocks where we're 100% owner and 100% operator of those. And one block, we're a partner with Total, and they run 40 or 60% and operate that particular block. So we're demonstrating that we can also work with the super majors as well. The industry in Madagascar, we're the first company moving to what's called the development phase. Most companies are in exploration. They're out there looking for something. And if you look at this map over here on this side, these are our assets. It's not a great map of the assets there, but these are huge blocks. Each of them are about 5,000 square kilometers, big areas here. But what's significant about this is Mozambique over here, and Exxon and Tullow and others have exploration blocks over here offshore. And when you think about exploration, if you find anything with exploration, it usually takes about 5 to 7 to 8 years to get anything online with exploration here. Our blocks actually have resources now that we're producing. We're producing about 400 barrels a day of oil in the country now. But what's more important here is we're very, very close to getting this 25-year license, and this is a license that allows us to develop our resource, which is quite large. And when we get that development plan license, we've been working with the government for the last several months, it'll give us 25 years plus 5 years extension. So essentially, it gives you a 50-year life to develop the asset. So some people might say, well, you got 50 years, what are you going to do with it? Well, we've got tremendous amount of resource that we need to develop in the country. And we, again, Madagascar Oil, we control over 1.7 billion barrels of resource, contingent resource that's been verified by outside petroleum evaluators there. It's not just us saying that we have this crude here, that we've actually brought in experts from the outside. Netherlands and Sewell's done some work and verified this for us as a company. So we like to keep things pretty simple. If you have all those resources, it doesn't mean anything unless you can convert that to reserves. That's one of our main focuses. How are we going to move that through the chain and get those to 2Ps and get our production up and start developing these reserves? And then I get a lot of questions about, are things profitable or not? And I would just say, the production that we have today, we're basically storing that production now. We have about 100,000 barrels in our tanks now ready for sale, and most of that sale is going to be into the local market. And we're working with various local off-takers to take our crude. So I get asked the question, can you develop that profitable or not? And I was also the head of strategy and portfolio for Marathon, so I'd have to predict oil prices for the company and predict how we're going to invest in big projects that cost several hundred million and billions of dollars. And we take a view of that. And we had a lot of ways and analysis of how we would make those type of decisions. And I would say for us now at Madagascar Oil, if we were producing at the large volumes that we're targeting here, we would be profitable in that manner right now today with today's oil prices there. Our focus is on developing this asset, and I'll show you some of that. And I think, because of where we are and the fact that we are just poised now to get this license and ready to take off with our development plan, and we've got tremendous upside that we've already kind of found in our fields and in our blocks. And when I say upside, this is things that we know are there from previous wells that were drilled or some other information that we had from what went on in the past. Because a lot of people, as you know, don't know Madagascar as a country. And back in the 70s and 80s, there were a lot of companies that came in. And if you remember then, they were looking for the big find. So they would drill some wells, find some oil, find some gas. It wasn't big enough, they'd move on. So we hope to take advantage of that. And I think by doing that and delivering on our growth plans, we'll grow our shareholder value significantly. So before I talk about our major asset, a lot of the past people that are familiar with Madagascar Oil may have heard about our Tsimiroro heavy oil asset. I want to talk a little bit about our exploration licenses that we have, because I think we have a great opportunity to balance our portfolio, because what we're looking for here is gas and oil, and a lot of this, as I said before, has already been drilled way back 30 years ago or 40 years ago. Wells were drilled in this area. So we've been able to take advantage of the wells that were drilled. We've updated our exploration geology work. And what you see in yellow on the left side over here, these are exploration prospects. And a lot of these exploration prospects, as I say, this is not rank exploration. This is things where we actually are taking the data that was there before, and because it was old data and they might have had oil shows, or they may have had one well produce 9 million gas a day and they just shut that in because gas had no value at that time. So we're taking all of that and trying to upgrade, and we're going to do some more 2D and 3D work so we can high grade which ones to actually pursue first. So this was all those different types of prospects that we've utilized from our work to date. And again, this is just a map of those assets. This is the Tsimiroro asset. This is the asset where we have 1.7 billion barrels of contingent resource. And then you have these assets here. These are the assets that are the exploration block. And this block just below Tsimiroro is where they found 41 gravity oil when they were drilling. So we think we've got a good chance to help even balance our portfolio even further. And we're going to go down a dual path of developing our heavy oil field and also going after some exploration prospects that we have. So let's talk about the giant, the potential giant. I'm not sure how familiar folks are with heavy oil fields here, but Tsimiroro is about a 6,600 square kilometer asset. It's 60 kilometers by about 10 or 50 for the size, the aerial size. And our wells there are shallow. They're only about 200 meters to drill a well. And so when I say potential giant, Kern River Field has produced over 2 million barrels to date. The Duri Field is in Indonesia. It has produced over 2 billion barrels a day to date. I've worked in both of those places. I was in Duri when we were on Area 3. They're now on Area 13. When I was in Duri, we actually was able to ramp up our production, and we got over 300,000 barrels a day at the time. I think we have the same type of potential of doing this in Tsimiroro. So when we look at our contingent resource base, our P50 number of 1.7, that was done again by Netherland and Sewell. We did our own work around 1.8. This was on a portion of the field that's probably what we call a portion of the main field. It's only about a third of that main field. So again, we know we have additional potential elsewhere. So in heavy oil, there's two ways to further extract the oil. We're using steam. We're using thermal application. You can do cyclic steam, which is what this is on the far left, cyclic steam stimulation. And this is where you inject the steam in the well, you let it soak for 4 or 5 days, and you produce the well back. You get 10 to 25% recovery by doing that. If you move on to 100% steam injection 24 hours a day all the time, then your recoveries could be 40 to 60%. So if you believe we got 1.7 billion barrels, you can do the math. That's 1 billion barrels that we're targeting to recover just out of what we found and know so far. But again, we have additional potential. So our field, this is our field, Tsimiroro. Again, it's large, and this is the main field right here. This is where the 1.7 billion barrels is. Out of the 18, we divided the field into 100 sections. 18 of those sections comprises the 1.7 billion barrels. So we've yet to define this. Through some of the work that Stephen was talking about, we actually discovered 2 additional structures within our license here. We know this south, we call it Tsimiroro South, has the same reservoirs that the main field has in terms of the thermal potential. We already know that because there's well penetrations that were there. We call this the Deep South. Our naming is not very innovative, by the way, but the South and the Deep South. But the Deep South here also has potential because right offsetting that is where we had one of our other exploration blocks, and again, that's where they found the 41 gravity oil. So our plans are to work our main field while we do the seismic work and additional geologic work to further work the deep sections in here. This is a picture of our field. This is our plant. We started our steam flood pilot in 2013. We've had it running for 2 years, so we've got a lot of information out of it. We know the thermal application works. Thermal technology is not something that is new. I mean, we've been applying it around the world for a long time. And the other thing is, this is not heavy oil in the terms of where you got Canadian oil sands or you got to go and dig something out there. So this is a view of our operations, and this operation is the way it is now. Like I said, we're about 400 barrels a day. When we start ramping up, this operation will handle up to 10,000 barrels a day before we have to do significant upgrades. But since folks don't know a lot about Madagascar, I thought I would throw in this little video that kind of actually shows you visually what we're working with and some of the areas around Madagascar.
Lalana aloha dia hatramin'ny sy ny Madagascar Oil mba sokafan'ity lalana ty.
Dia mba maniry be dia be mihitsy ny vahoaka mba ny hampandroso azy.
Efa mba manana secours zahay, manana hôpitaly, nefa taloha zany tena tsy misy fa dia any amin'ny ombiasa any amin'ny maso no mitsabo rehefa marary.
Maro ny zavatra tokony hampianarina Madagascar Oil na amin'ny fiainako zany na amin'ny zavatra itiavako ny asan'ny toerinazy aty mampianatra izy.
Zaho misy mamela tantara zao koa.
We have a longer version also, and it's been quite powerful when we actually show that to potential partners and investors that this is actually real and we are moving forward. And you saw a lot of stuff about the community in that video. And at one time I was also the VP of Corporate Social Responsibility at Marathon. And that was another thing that attracted me to Madagascar Oil, because there was a lot of emphasis on social responsibility and working in Madagascar with a lot of biodiversity that is there. That's very important to us. And so we're going to take advantage of the opportunity that we've been given and do it in an environmentally sensitive way and also a safe way, because our company recently celebrated 3 million man-hours with no lost times. That's stuff that the super majors really charge and try to do all the time. So I think we're doing the right things as a company. We've got a lot of work to do. You saw big numbers, 1.7 billion barrels of contingent resource, which we think can do more. You saw in the video, our target is over 100,000 barrels a day. We've got large exploration block with additional potential that we haven't fully defined as a company. So we've got those things before us, and how we do that and how we drive these resources to reserves is going to be very important, because we're fortunate that we don't necessarily have reservoir risk. Ours is execution risk. We've got to execute this very carefully. We're going to be drilling thousands of wells here and putting in these resources in this environment. So we think we're poised for that, and we think we're ready to move forward.
Thank you very much, Robert. you have any questions, please? Any hands up?
Hello, Robert.
Hi.
What is your production level at the moment, and what's the cost of production?
Yeah, our production level now is about 400 barrels a day. And so if you look at an individual well cost, again, Stephen actually showed a slide where heavy oil generally cost about $40 to $60 a barrel. And I'd just say we're in the lower end of that there. I didn't shake my head.
Just here, please, Peter. Oh, sorry.
Follow on to his questions. When do you hope to get to your 10,000 barrel per day?
You must be a psychic. Well, you know, this is shares investor evening, and so you look for breaking news. So I'll give you some breaking news. Just a few hours ago, we actually got approval from the government on our 25-year license. So now we actually have a mining license that we can move forward with and start doing our development plan here. So what we've talked about in the past is our 10,000 barrels a day. We've showed different things that will be occurring over a few years' time. Right now we have one rig in country. Our rigs can drill a well every 4 days. In 2016, we're planning on bringing additional rigs in. And again, all of us could drill those wells because they're not very deep. There's no excess pressure that we're having to worry about there. You really just got to drill the well, case it, and move on and start getting your steam injection in the ground.
So just to confirm, that 25-year license, you now have that. That's all signed, sealed, delivered. There we are. That's fantastic.
Well, we actually just got notice that the Council of Ministers had signed off on that. We've been working on that for several months with the government, and we've got a great relationship with the government of Madagascar also. And our relationship is not just with the president and the various ministers. We actually know the folks in all the different agencies and the folks that when you change regimes, these folks are still going to be there working. So it's important that you have those relationships all across the board.
Question here?
Could you talk a bit about your current shareholder base?
Yeah, our shareholder base, we have 4 predominant shareholders that own about 85% of the company.
And do you know what their intentions are? Are they going to be with the company long term?
Well, I can't answer if they're going to be with the company long term. What I can say is they've been very supportive, and they support our plans that we have developed going forward here. So, I mean, to get to this point and to get to this point where you actually have something, and again, to spend $300 million over 10 years, that's a lot of dedication and support from a lot of our shareholder base.
In terms of resources to develop the assets you've got, how are you going to do that? What's your balance sheet like? Any debt? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, a lot of that is you know, we've talked in the past that we want to talk to strategic partners, because if you think about the size of Madagascar Oil developing a asset this large, we're going to need various partners to help us with that. And we've talked to off-takers that may want to take our off-take to build a pipeline and return to X. We've talked to service companies that want to come in and get some contract to potentially drill all our wells in return for Y. We've talked to companies. And we've talked to private equity. We've talked to a lot of people, but until you actually have something in your hand, it's really kind of like, you know, you go to a presentation and you're up there and nothing's behind the wall. Well, we've got something behind the wall now.
Question at the back.
With apologies for an ignorant question, is there appreciable country risk in Madagascar, and if so, how do you measure and mitigate it?
No, that's a good question because there's a lot of the government of Madagascar, the democratic elected government, has just been in place for the last 2 years. Prior to that, there was 4 years of a coup environment. I think we demonstrated we were able to still progress our development through that time period there. And we also have worked a lot with the World Bank. We've worked with the IMF. Madagascar has been recognized by the EU, they've been recognized by the US, they've been recognized by the United Nations. So they're doing the things necessary to help attract foreign investment here. And that's why now you have a lot more companies lining up on that coastline to actually try to do exploration work. That's going to take some time for that. And then before, when I was with Marathon, and we actually would go into countries that were more risky, you also look at the asset base. And this asset base and this development, if we're successful, it has a tremendous impact on the country. So if we're successful and regime changes there, most of the time they don't take that away because they can't do it themselves. So they'll still want revenues to come in. They'll want them to come in actually much faster than what's happening there. So we just try to work with the government and the relevant authorities to make sure that we all stay in the loop and work with them.
Any other questions?
Hi, as an oil producer in Madagascar, and you've got the other side of the world as well with the oil producers, and especially like examples, your neighboring Africa and Middle East, and you got the ones somewhere in America. Just wanted to ask, as well as supporting the local communities and selling the oils to the locals to help them with the industries as well, I just wanted to ask if you're like importing or exporting it to the other side of the world, like just need to know that if the oil does work differently, especially if it's used for transports,
right,
as well as the domestic electricity, can the cost become greater whether it means going through the stock market shares and all that? Can oil, varies where you use it, whether it's transport or domestic, can the cost become greater once you've imported to the other side of the world and big companies?
Yeah, I think there's a pretty much a defined size of the local market, you know, and it's in the thousands of barrels a day. And we're working with the state-owned electric company. Our crude, even though it's a 14-15 gravity crude, it's a pretty clean crude. What the country imports now is heavy fuel oil that's about 3.5% sulfur. Our crude is about 0.3% sulfur. And we've got a low ash content, so it actually burns very, very clean. So part of that local market is that we can help offset some of that because the price they're paying for that is really, really above market price. But our true target, once we do that and work with the government and the different businesses that are in the country, then we want to export. And when you export that crude, it goes to heavy oil refineries. There's a pending change that's going to be required in marine that's going to be requiring more of this blend of the crude that we actually have, which will help us fill that market. And, you know, when we talk about how we distribute this, you know, our plans are to build a pipeline to the coastline that is close, about 120 kilometers, and then we'll build a facility and load ships from there.
Any more questions?
When do you hope to achieve that?
Can you just wait for the microphone, sorry?
When do you hope to achieve the export part of your business?
Well, we have to first ramp up our production, and we said we were going to do that essentially within the next 5 years of time if our production levels reach what we say that they can reach. Again, our target is over 100,000 barrels a day. So initially we truck that into the local market. We get a significant cost reduction once the pipeline's in place and we're actually utilizing that pipeline. And then it goes again to the export market. But we've got to build the pipeline and we've got to build a port facility. And if you think about how long that takes a couple of years to do that. So we have that in our plans once we are meeting certain production levels and on target for that, we'll be moving ahead with that.
We've got time for one more if there are any in the room. Otherwise, I had one. On the video, there's a lovely video, and it showed the natural beauty of Madagascar. And we had an inquiry when we were announcing the lineup for this evening, and from one of our readers asking about the potential environmental impacts. You touched upon it at the end of your presentation, but I think there is genuine investor concern about environmental impact in Madagascar because it's such a special place. What sort of processes do you have in place to try and mitigate the impact that you might be having?
Yeah, I mean, Madagascar is a wonderful country. There's a lot of one-of-the-kind things that are in Madagascar, so we don't want to impact that in any shape or any way at all. And if you saw a lot what's going on in our field and around our field, and that was one of the things when I first looked at it, what the development looked like, you can actually expand our field and minimize our footprint as we go in about the field, and we don't have to do a lot of earthworks to do this. It is a tropical type of a climate. But one of the first things we did was we brought over a biodiversity expert that is, he's written on and recognized as a biodiversity expert in Madagascar. He actually helped one of the largest mining companies in Madagascar put their pipeline in. So we're going to help him and to help us get to where we minimize any impact on the environment. It's high on our radar to not do that.
Okay. Robert, thank you very much indeed.